Amanda Faust, so excited to have you here in the studio.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Ray.
This is going to be so much fun. I have gotten to know you over the last couple of years and really love and respect you and your husband and your business. Can you share, just give us a little bit of a story of you and your business, where you've been and where you think you're headed?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I actually have two different businesses. One of them is a marketing company that I call Homegrown. And there's a whole team of us. We do full service marketing, but we are mostly focused on the relational side of marketing. But we also do a lot of copywriting, websites, social media, basically full service marketing on the Homegrown side. And then I have a business called High Performance Insider. And on that side, I am a certified high performance coach. So I coach high performers on how to have better habits for themselves. A lot of them are business owners and they've found ways to grow in their business, but they've kind of forgotten that they can apply some of those similar things to their own personal lives to thrive as well. And so I kind of help them have a more holistic view of life and apply their habits in both the business and personal side. And on that side, I also have a highest potential planner that helps really both sides of my business because it just helps people stay organized. A lot of it's focused on entrepreneurs. And that's something that we recently launched. I believe it's been over a year ago. So super excited about that. I should probably know how long it's actually been out, but
Well, I love that planner, by the way. It's great.
thank you.
Anybody who's been looking for, if you've tried all the different planners and you find a lot of them too complex, and then you find a lot of them not complex enough, I think what your planner does, for me anyway, it really is as simple as it can and should be, but no simpler.
Yeah. No, I love the way you put that. Yeah, I always say that you just need 5 minutes a day to actually set intentions with this planner. And it brings in both like the business side, but also the personal side. And yeah, I've been really pleased about it. I love it.
So curious, what's the story behind how you started your first business? Then we'll get into the coaching.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about Homegrown then. I think that's the one you were asking about specifically.
Yes.
I love this story because I did not set out to build Homegrown. It found me. So basically what happened with Homegrown was I loved to write. And I've been a writer all my life. I remember in 8th grade, my teacher writing on the top of my essay, truly the work of a great writer. And that little 8th grade me was like, oh, I guess that's who I am then. Like, I'm a great writer. And it's so funny how powerful your teacher's words can be, right? And so I always wrote, I always journaled, but I also love to like hype people up and sell. I didn't really know that. That was another organic thing that I enjoyed doing. And I did not set out to do those things after school. I actually went to college for leadership. And along the way, though, I was always writing. Like I was working for the newspaper, or I was helping people with their essays or papers. Like my dream job in college was I wanted to work at the writing center and like edit people's stuff. And so I enjoyed doing that. But I also always had like side businesses going on that I was selling for. And so what ended up happening was a few people asked me like if I would write for them for their websites or if I would edit their articles. And like, I just kept getting asked to do things to do with writing. And then as I got into that world, I realized that there was like a whole thing on marketing that also included writing. And so I started naturally doing that as well. And so long story short, I just got asked enough. I learned the craft and I'm somebody like, if I'm going to do something, I want to know all there is to know about it so I can do it right. And so I started, actually, that's kind of how I found you too, is I found your book on copywriting because I wanted to learn about it. And then, of course, that morphed into taking courses and eventually the certification. And it just kind of kept going. And I'm always like to figure things out too. So like, even though I was doing the writing side, there was more to marketing than writing. And so then people would say like, well, could you design this pamphlet? Because I would write it, but then they'd be like, well, I need someone to design it. And I'm like, well, I could figure out how to design that. And so I don't know, there was always, I feel like my whole business was built on like, I'll figure that out. And then I just did. And then I found people who were better than me at those things and hired them to work for me. And it just kind of blew up.
That's super smart, because even for freelancers who want to stay freelancers, I eventually end up recommending to them, you should hire some people so you can
Yes.
leverage your time and build an actual business. It's been a delight working with you over time, because you made that leap from one part of our business to the next, going through the book, going through the course, going through certification, and the connection. You were quickly able to make the connection. You mentioned it earlier. There's more to copywriting than just writing, because I don't think enough people understand this. The way the copy that you send people to read is framed makes a huge difference in how well it works. There's a myth that was promulgated by copywriters, of course, who say essentially, I have the magic words that if you put them on your webpage, it will sell your stuff. And there was a kind of methodology that these gentlemen used, which said, don't mess with my copy. If anything goes wrong, it's because you messed with my copy. And I think that's so old school, and it's so good old boy kind of a self-protection mechanism. If I can be the grumpy guru and I can tell you, you must not screw with my copy, and my copy is all powerful, then that protects me from having to answer for why didn't your copy work? Because I can always figure out a way to blame the customer, the client. And I always felt like I don't want to have to make those explanations. I want to make a difference for the client. So I was the one who went in the door and said, look, there's so much more to this than just your copy. Yeah. Have you seen, as you're working with clients coming into Homegrown and then growing with you through other parts of your business, have you seen the need to educate them about the fact that it's not just the copy, it's not just how good the web page looks. There's other factors that go into them being able to sell more and spread their message?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say that that's actually a really good way to sum up how my company became what it is because I would see that I could put a lot of effort into the copy and trying to get it right. But if I didn't have a deeper understanding of who they were psychologically and the behaviors of their customers and the behaviors of them as a company, like I think that's where the coaching side would come in a little bit and just really understanding them. But B, if I was launching them with just copy, but they didn't have the tech side, or they didn't have the website built, or they didn't have the launch strategy, or all these other things, it wouldn't be as successful as it could be. And so it was really hard for me to feel like I could offer enough by just writing great words and passing it off and hoping it worked. I wanted to make sure that there was everything else was set in place. And so that's where I brought in a lot of who's into my business who could do a lot of those things. They could set up the tech side, they could set up the launches, all that, while I could stay in my zone of writing the copy and getting to know the client, getting to know the audience, just really getting in it with them. And then also taking the time afterwards to evaluate, like, okay, what worked, what didn't, what do we need to tweak, and just being in it with them more.
Yeah. So I need to translate for those who are listening. You're like, what did she say about who's? Is this
yeah.
Dr. Seuss? No, it's Dr. Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, and Dan Sullivan wrote a book that we've been reading in our mastermind. Well, we read this one some time ago. It's called Who, Not How. And it's all about how we get caught up in how-to stuff as entrepreneurs. Like I was talking with a very high-level entrepreneur a few days ago, and he said, I'm all buried in this course right now, figuring out how to get these scripts to work to run this widget on my website. And I'm like, dude, you should not be doing that. What's your hourly rate? We actually divided his annual income by the hours he works, and his hourly rate was over $1,000 an hour. I'm like, wow. You could hire somebody for a lot less than $1,000 an hour to do that. So that's what it's the who. It's not the how to. I don't need to go learn how to do that stuff. I just need to learn who can do it for me. And Absolutely. Is that a good trade for me in my business?
Yeah.
For me in my business. Let me ask you this. What led you to make the transition into coaching? Was that like the same discovery process for you?
So I would say coaching was way more intentional. I didn't just kind of fall into coaching like I did Homegrown. Coaching was something that when I was in college studying leadership, they had a free coaching for any student, which I thought was like the jackpot. I was like, what? I can go get coached while I'm here as a student? And as I was receiving coaching, I was watching my coach and thinking, I want to be her. Like, I want to be doing this for someone else. And of course I loved receiving too, but I just knew that there was more to that than what I was experiencing. I wanted to be a coach. And so that was more of a setting my sights on something and running after it full force. And I ended up taking on clients really quickly. I got certified in just basic life coaching right out of college when that was kind of the thing. There wasn't really niches for coaching yet. It was more just like life coaching. And so I got certified, and then I started coaching clients right away. And I actually realized I didn't know what a high performer was. I realize now that I was one, but I didn't know, I didn't have the verbiage for it. But I was attracting other similar people who were just, they were taking my coaching and going all in and getting results almost faster than I could keep up with. And they were surpassing me, a lot of my clients. And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do here because I want to keep them. I want to work with them, but they're getting past me in their growth. And so very quickly I was like, I got to level up. I got to learn more. And so that's when I discovered Brendon Burchard. And so if anyone's not familiar with him, he is like the king of high performance and like high performance habits. And I loved everything he talked about, everything he preached. I think my favorite thing about Brendon is that like, he's well known, but most people aren't like, wow, Brendon. They just love what he talks about and his methodology and that kind of thing. And that's what I was really drawn to, is I didn't want to just be a replica of a person. I wanted to like really believe in the methodology of what they were teaching and make sure that I aligned with that if that was going to be how I coached. And so I got certified as a high performance coach because that was my clientele. Little did I know. And then I was able to actually keep up with them and be able to provide a lot of value, because the beauty of that kind of coaching is it's just kind of a rinse and repeat. Like every time you level up, you just apply those same principles to that next level and just keep going. So I've been able to really grow with my clients now, which has been really fun.
So how have you seen your company and your business grow over time? I mean, like when you started out with Homegrown, like your first year, if you don't mind, I mean, our listeners, viewers love numbers and real world examples.
I'm happy to give those because I've got some crazy ones in terms of growth. Okay, well, first of all, just for context, when I started Homegrown, I had kids at home, and I still am like very hands-on with my kids, but they're in school full-time now. So part of the reason for the numbers is just part-time versus full-time work. But I remember like the first few years, making about 19,000, 20,000, not a whole lot.
But I want to point out, very significant for somebody who's starting out, hasn't made the first dollar.
Yeah.
Let's remember, that's very encouraging and could be life-changing for that person.
No, absolutely. I think that at the time I really like wanted to be able to work more, or felt like I was working more. So it felt discouraging at the time, but like looking back, as you said, to start your own thing, having no support other than like your own self and your own learning, like that was a big deal for sure. I set out a goal that when my kids went to full-time school, so like my youngest was in kindergarten, that I would go full-time that month. And I think that was like maybe, trying to think how many years into business that was. I want to get this math right so you can edit this part out of my thinking. But Liam would have been 5 and I started. So 5 years in. I'm just going to think of it in terms of his age because I started when he was born. So 5 years into business, I went full time, ended up hitting 6 figures within 2 months. And I retired my husband 3 months into being full time.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Was that a surprise?
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise because I remember like in the first few years thinking 6 figures was going to take me like a decade. Like I wanted it, but I was like, well, maybe in my 30s I'll hit that or whatever, which I'm in my 30s now. But yeah, it just seems like forever away.
It's very interesting to me, this phenomena of how bad we are at estimating how long something's going to take us. We think something's going to take 10 years and it takes 10 months. And we think something's going to take a month and it takes 3 years. And I don't exactly know what to do with that. But other than I guess my thought on that would be, don't hang all of your hopes and your measure of success on hitting a number in a time frame specifically. Now I'm going to ask the obviously self-serving question. How important, as you were going through that growth, was the copy you were using to sell your services and follow up with clients and those kinds of
Okay.
things?
Yeah, it was everything. Like I can't say for sure because I don't know. But I don't imagine I'd be able to be where I am at all if it weren't for knowing how to write copy, how to write good copy, or just partnering with someone who could, because I just don't know how you sell otherwise.
Yeah, I don't think you do. And you are a very accomplished copywriter and you understand the principles, which I think is going to become more and more important because of AI. Because now anybody can crank out pretty good mediocre copy.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous to business owners. I know several business owners who fired their copywriter and they think they replaced that person with Chat GPT. And I've got news for them. That's not going to work.
No, it's not.
What do you think about AI? How does that factor into your businesses?
Yeah. So that was such an important topic when it came out. I mean, with running a marketing company, it's like, of course, your team's like, oh no, do we have jobs? Are you going to use us, or are you just going to use ChatGPT? So I remember having a moment, and you actually really helped me by your response to it within being a copywriter, with all that you do and your ability to embrace it. Because I feel like in the moment I was like, I feel like it's going to be fine, but why is everyone panicking? Should I be panicking? And then when I looked towards you and your reaction, and you were okay with it and you were excited and you were like, okay, we're going to figure this out. I was like, okay, so my gut's right. Like, this is going to be okay. And so I decided to take an approach with my team of partnering with AI. So that's the phrase we use in Homegrown, is I'm like, we're not going to just go full in and just like full on rely on AI and just kind of like throw our talents and gifts and all that to the side in exchange, but we're going to partner with it. And we're going to use it as much as we can for efficiency's sake, so that we can serve more people, so that we can provide more for the clients we're currently working with. But then we also, like, we're relational marketing. So AI can't be relational. So we're going to bring our superpower in and partner with it. And so that's kind of what we've done, both with the copy side, but also in a lot of other ways with video and all the kind of ways AI works.
Love that. So talk to me about the coaching business now. Where's that going? Who are you working with? Who's your ideal client when you're coaching someone?
So it's kind of been cool because I remember when I had the two separate businesses, and I remember everybody telling me, you got to pick one, like all the gurus, you got to pick one business. And I say that to say that I was like thinking that they were so separate. You know, I'm like, oh, they're probably right. This is marketing's a completely different clientele than my coaching clientele. And honestly, it's not at all. There's a ton of overlap. I've definitely realized that a lot of my coaching clientele are those that I work with on the marketing side, which are business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are just making a big difference in the world and in what they're doing, but they just need that extra support. A lot of them are leading others and they need that support from a coach and how to lead themselves. And so that's something that I've been able to do, is work with high performers, work with business owners, entrepreneurs. And, I've worked with other people too, but those are my main focus.
How would I know as a potential client, if I'm watching this or listening to this, how would I know, man, does the person need to be coached by? What kinds of problems are you going to be able to help me with?
Yeah, I would say one of my superpowers is a lot of times I'm working with people, almost every time I'm working with people who are on paper successful. So they're not necessarily coming to me and saying, I want to be successful, but a lot of times they come to me and say, I want to feel successful. So there's a difference between being and feeling. And you can be, like I said, on paper successful and still not feel like it. I mean, it's why people can hit these levels that maybe many of us look up to, and then they're unhappy, or they feel like an imposter. I hear that a lot too. It's like, I don't know really how I got here, or if I even deserve to be in this position. I don't really know how to lead my team. There's just a lot of their feelings aren't aligning with what you're seeing on the outside. And so I would say that one of the biggest problems I solve is helping people really become self-aware in who they are and like go through that discovery process, not just like what are your gifts and talents in your work. A lot of them are clear on that, but more like, a being versus doing. I like to say how to be and not just do. They've been doing their whole lives. And so we talk about that. We talk about relationships. Maybe if you're somebody who feels like they are lonely, maybe they're surrounded by a lot of people, but they don't have those close relationships either within their family or within their peer group. Or some of them lack clarity on what's next. Like, oh, I had these goals and I've gone after them and I reached them and now I don't really know what to do because I don't know how to dream bigger than what I've already dreamed. We talk about clarity there too. And then I'd say the last thing that really helps someone know if I'd be a good fit would be their time management and productivity. A lot of them have just become workaholics along the way. And so, it's like an unhealthy version of a high performer. And so we talk a lot about finding that time management and balance in how they're spending their time, which is our best like asset, really.
I know that all the things you just mentioned are big deals for a lot of us who have succeeded at a certain level. And yet we're looking around, we begin looking for the meaning in what we're doing, our purpose, our validity. So those are powerful, important issues to deal with. I mean, those really are in many cases, things that are blocking you from your next level of success, however you define that.
Yeah.
If any of those feelings made you think, oh man, that kind of sounds like me, then you should probably have a conversation with Amanda.
I love how you said a phrase that is really important to me. And you just said like, however they define success for them. That's such an important phrase because I think so many coaches out there kind of decide what success looks like. And that's how they market is like, this is success and this is what I can get you to. And that's not the kind of coach I am. I'm much more like, what does success look like to you? And how can we get there to your type of success together?
Oh, so important.
Yeah.
So powerful. We're getting ready to open up our Copywriting Academy coaching program. I used to just call it a course. We don't call it just a course anymore because we figured out pretty early on that just giving people a course wasn't working, because what happens to a lot of us is we get a course, we're excited about it. We go through like the first video or two, and then we get busy and we're on to the next thing. And so people weren't completing it. So we began working on this community thing. We're doing it together as a group and helping one another along. And some people call this cohort-based learning. Whatever you call it, it's like you're in a group of people who want to help you and whom you want to help. We have our own AI for copywriting. We're helping people learn how to incorporate this into their marketing. It doesn't replace you as the writer or the creator. It doesn't replace you as the person with the creative ideas. It does, I believe, make it possible for you to go faster and be better. And so that's the perspective we're coming to it from. So what would you say to someone who's thinking, I'm not sure if I need to learn this copywriting thing or not? What's your response to that question?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier of like, I don't know how I'd be here if I didn't know copy. Like I said, if it's not something you want to do, definitely partnering with someone who knows it. But if it is something that, if you're considering doing this and it feels like a no-brainer, because I know for me, I've been doing copywriting for years, but I didn't actually know like the pastor formula, or I didn't know all the different things to kind of like check my quality control is what we call it in Homegrown. We're always like, we got to check our quality control and make sure, because things can sound really great, but if you don't actually follow the methodology, that's why it doesn't work. Like you might talk on the pain points, you might, do the checklist of all the different things that you think you need in a sales letter, but you're the expert, and learning from you and under you was so like mind-blowing to me, because I was like, oh my gosh, I've not been like doing terribly, but there was a lot of gaps that I had in my copy before working with you. And now I'm so confident when I deliver copy for a client or even writing stuff for my own self. Like I'm confident in what I'm writing, and even that is like so helpful,
Yes, absolutely. I do know. And it's been exciting to watch you as you've grown in your communication skills. You were a very good writer when I met you. And that's increased geometrically since that time. And I know, full disclosure, you're a member of my mastermind group, and we're going to be getting together in a few weeks, a couple of weeks from now. We're going to be talking about a book possibly writing. And my message these days to everybody is everything is copy. So if you're writing a book, it's copy. That doesn't mean that you need to produce a schlocky, thinly disguised sales letter and call it a book. I think that's garbage.
Yeah.
But I know you're going to be writing a substantive book that helps people. I mean, the people that you look at and you respect, like Brendan, he's written some fantastic books, meaningful, powerful works that are going to stand the test of time. I think one of his most underrated books is, this, what I'm about to say, The Motivation Manifesto.
Yep.
He worked so hard on that book, and it's so powerful. So everything is copy. In our businesses, that means everything, like how we answer the phone, what's on our website, what's in our emails, also how we have conversations with people. We go to events, how we talk about our business, and communication. Turns out my mom, who told me communication is everything, she was right.
No, I love how you say that, Ray, because it is true. I mean, even just in how to close a sale, and what we say is it's not just about the deliverables of your product or service that matter. And so many people focus on that. Like, this is what you get. You get this, and this. So that they think that's their copy. But it's like, no, it's really diving into what you say is the problem of your ideal client and then providing a very clear solution and just learning how to do that in such a succinct way. Like, you've taken a very complicated process that most people years and years to understand or never understand, and you've made it so easy to understand in just those few months of doing the copywriting with you. And then you apply it to every area of your life. So it's just invaluable.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to you for saying that. So, Amanda, if people want to follow up with you because they want to know more about your high performance coaching, how you might be able to help them with that, what's the best way for them to start that engagement? How do they get involved or learn more about you?
Yeah. So I have a website, highperformanceinsider.com. And that's where you can find out about my coaching. If you're interested in that or my marketing, I'm mostly on Instagram. That's my main place. So if you just want to go for all the things, it's Amanda Kay Faust Foust. And that's where you can find kind of all the things that I do.
And I will say, if you need somebody to help you get pieces of your marketing done, I definitely would go check out Homegrown. The team that Amanda has built, they're remarkable. They do remarkable work, and I recommend them very strongly. And if you need coaching, obviously, you're going to talk to Amanda.
Thank you so much, Ray. I appreciate that.
Thank you.